Fine. So last class we have discussed about the functional programming language. So where the major data types are list and items, and the list is based on your linked list data structure we have said, and the kind of operation that we can perform, like the basic operations are cart and CD are we said. But then in addition to that we have couple of operations. And then subsequent compound operations you can probably code using this basic operation, like to perform append, sort, search, list, and automate the list and all kind of thing. So in addition to the list operations, you can rather perform some arithmetic operations for which with the help of symbols, as we have discussed, that you can perform the arithmetic operations as well. And one of the dialect of Lisp, we said, is a scheme. So we were discussing about scheme, language, and then we have probably discussed its nature and the kind of operations that it is allowing on its data types. Also, we have seen, right? Right. So continuing from the last class, as we said, these are the two fundamental features of the function programming language: referential transparency and tail recursion. Okay. So tail recursion, which rather we have discussed today, from where we have to start, I think, right? So we'll first start with the same. I hope these all operations which are being performed on the list of scheme are clear to all of you, and the operations to perform certain, sorting, searching, and other kind of thing, also with the help of the code that we have built using the basic functions, also clear to all of you. So hoping that you have got some gist of the functional programming language. So today we will discuss the tail recursion of scheme, starting with a function is said to be tail recursive if its recursive call is the last operation in the function, right? A tail recursive function can be automatically converted by a compiler to use iteration, making it faster. So like activation record concept that was removed from the previous syllabi when the syllabus is transformed to you, rather, right? So which we did not discuss because it was not as part of the syllabus. But I have given you a brief about it while I was discussing the functions, of course, right? So basically, when you invoke the function, an activation record is generated to maintain the space related for a particular function, right? So all the variables and values that are probably needed and kind of operations to be evaluated and all are going to be maintained in that particular activation record. Okay. So we have recursive functions in imperative programming languages like C, C++, and all, where you have used recursive functions, right? So in recursive functions, you must have seen. I have explained you the recursive function of in the C language before class. So where we have seen, the when a call is made with the change to parameters, the operation is not being carried out then and there. Rather, the values along with the operation being stored in the activation record. So for each recursive call, an activation record is going to be generated. Okay, so you will be having, based on number of your calls, the activation records will be generated. So while you are unwinding, the unwinding of recursive call happens with the last call, rather, right? So the unwinding of the recursive call will make this operations to be carried out from these respective activation records, and then eventually it gets you the final result of the same, right? So that was the concept in basically implemented in imperative programming. But coming to functional programming language, this functions have been made more simpler, and the operations that perform along with the same are also made more simpler. And of course, a function which is written, for example, you take a factorial of a number. Okay, so this is the normal way of writing, recursive function in scheme. Before that, we just have the difference between the normal recursive and tail recursive. If n equal to 0, right? How do we pronounce this? If n equal to 0, what is that has to be written? 1 has to be written. And then otherwise what happens? N into, right? It's nothing but what? N into. We can see this is nothing but what? An operation, multiplication operation, right? How do you represent this? N into factorial of this minus n comma 1. What do you mean by this? As we have discussed in arithmetic expression, the operations that we perform of this minus n comma 1. What do you mean by this? As we have discussed in arithmetic expression, the operations that we perform are being represented with what? The operator, then followed by the operands, rather, right? So it's nothing but n minus 1, rather, right? So which you are going to pass as a parameter to this particular function while invoking the same. So the last statement in the recursive function you can see is a multiplication operation. Yes or no? This is a multiplication operation, right? The last operation of the recursive is a multiplication operation. This is normal, recursive function. But in tail recursive, the difference between the normal recursive, tail recursive is the last statement is a recursive call, right? It is not a normal operation. So you can see here, this has been transformed with the help of a fact helper, function. We have taken a fact helper functions we have taken here. So this factorial of an n has been now modified. Here define factorial of n, the same sentence that we have as that of the original recursion here. But then the next statement in that we have is the fact helper n1, right? Fact helper n1. So this fact helper function, which we are here, define. This is an extra function, right? It's a helper function, which is converting this normal recursive into tail recursive, right? So as I said, tail recursive is one wherein the last statement is the recursive call, right? In this fact helper function, you can see fact helper n fact partial. These are the parameters, right? This is a function name fact helper, and you have parameters like n and fact partial, right? So now the code of this particular function is defined here. You can see if equal n 0 means if n equal to 0. This is nothing but if n equal to 0. What is that has to be written here? Fact partial, you are saying, right? So what has to be written? Fact partial. And otherwise you can see this is a recursive call, right? This is not a normal operation. See, in the recursive function, you can see the last statement is a multiplication operation, right? So see, you may have a doubt, right? In the multiplication, we have a recursive call, but then what is the last operation? See, when you have n into factorial of n minus 1, what is going to be done first? Factorial of n minus 1 is done. That is the recursive call, right? But then after this call is made and the value that you obtain from it will undergo with this operation. So what is the last operation? If you look at from the sequence, the kind of operation that you perform at the last is nothing but the multiplication operation, is not the recursive call, rather, right? In this case. But whereas here you can see we have modified this now function with the help of fact helper into a tail recursive. How is that happened here? You can see this fact helper function is taking two arguments here, n and fact partial value. So if n equal to 0, it is returning fact partial. Otherwise, you are making a again function call, the same function you are calling. It's nothing but a recursive call, right? Fact helper. It's the same name when you are calling within itself, you call it as a recursion, right? So fact helper, you're calling now, you're passing what? You're passing n minus 1 to n. So n is replaced with n minus 1. And for fact partial, what is it you're passing? You can see here it is a multiplication operation. Nothing but n into fact partial. Okay, n into fact partial. So of course, these are the parameters that are going to be all. Then you say it is a tail recursive. Now you can come to why do we convert the normal recursive into tail recursive? What is the advantage of converting it into a tail recursive? As I said, if I go with normal recursive, fine. What happens if for every function call here, an activation record is generated, right? An activation record is generated. So now, if you have n number of calls, then for all such n calls, all this n activation records are going to be generated. So while you unwind, right? When you unwind, basically when you terminate here, right? When you unwind, what happens? These operations are going to be carried out from each of this particular activation record, and the value will be concatenated, right? So the final value that you obtain from the same will be, after all these operations that are being carried out at the respective activation record, right? So this is how the normal recursion will take place. But in tail recursive, what happens is single activation record is enough, right? So the single activation record will take care of the same, fine. So what happens here is you of course pass the values n-1 and n into fact partial, but these values, these operations are going to be done during the call itself, right? You see, this is my n-1 is going to be passed here, and n into this is nothing but what n into fact partial. So here fact partial, what is that you have sent at the initial time? It is 1. So value will be substituted. When the value is available, you can perform the operation, yes or no? See, here you are unable to carry out the operation since the value is not available for the same. See, multiplication operation is the last operation. For multiplication operation, you require two operands. One is the left operand, another one is the right operand, yes or no? So here, left operand is available, but the right operand is available only after the function call is made. But the function call itself will not decide what value that it can generate until last function call is made. So all such values have to be rather available, rather to be stored. Fine. So for which we need a separate space. So since all of them are different function call and you are not performing the operation then and there, so for which you need separate space to distinguish or to separate it. That's the reason why you had all different activation record for each particular call. But whereas here you can see in order to carry out, see when you are calling, that is fine, this is a recursive call. But then while you're passing the parameter for the same, when you're calling that function, the operations that you have to carry out before which to send it to the respective parameters here can be made possible rather, right? See, the first parameter is n-1, so n-1 we can perform, right? Because n operands are available, and here as well n into fact partial, right? Left operand is available, right operand is also, you can see it is available. That is 1 when you are making a first function call rather, right? So since the operands are available, the operation will be evaluated, so value will be sent, right? So here what is happening, you need not to wait until the last call is made to carry out the operations. Rather, you can evaluate the operation at the time of call itself, right? That was the difference, right? That is the difference between the normal and the tail recursive. So because of which the advantage that you get is you need not to store at different places to separate it, and once you obtain the values at the end of the call, which may rather supply to its predecessors in order to carry out their operations. Rather, it can straight away go for the operation. When it can straight away go for the operation, that value you can probably store it in a single place rather, right? So you don't need extra or separate activation records for each recursive call rather, right? So the advantage that you are getting with the help of this tail recursive is you are able to save a lot of space rather, right? You are able to save a lot of space, and the operations are being carried out at the time of call itself, right? Not at the unwinding time. Okay, like how that happens in the normal imperative function kind. Okay, this is the major advantage. So and in functional programming like Scheme, you take Common Lisp or you take Haskell or ML and all. So most of this functional programming language having certain programs or applications as part of its respective compilers, to generate the tail recursive for the recursion that you have written in your code, right? For all such recursive functions, basically here all the operations, if you probably see, which you carry out are through the recursion itself, right? So when you write those code, that recursive functions or recursive calls are being converted into tail recursive by their respective compiler with the help of helper functions available as part of it, right? And then after once they generate it, they go for implementation. So, so at the time of implementation, when it comes, you can see that you could be able to rescue lot of amount of space, and then at the same time the execution will be faster, right? So this is another advantage, right? That's how the functional programming languages are more simpler and faster enough and efficient enough from the space point of view compared to functional programming language. We'll see furthermore, like as we have discussed in the last class, the basic two operations that you see in functional programming language are CAR and CDR, right? The composition of these also you can rather implement. Composition functions like f of g of x, right, which we discussed in the last class. When you have composition functions, what happens? The second function, the evaluated value of the second function will be taken as the parameter for the first function. Okay, have you seen before? Yeah. So the evaluated value of the second function will be taken as the parameter for the first function. So in this case, let us look at this particular example. CDR of ABC you have, right? So what it returns? See, what is CDR? Content decrement register. What it returns you by removing the head element, right? It will return you the tail. Head is the first element or first atom of the list, okay? And subsequent part or the remainder part will be taken as the tail, right? So what CDR will return you? CDR will return you the tail part. So what is the head here? Head is the first atom, right? And this remaining part, the remainder of the list is considered to be the tail part, right? What CDR returns actually? CDR returns you the tail part, means BC. So when you apply CDR on this list, what it returns? It returns BC here, right? So again you are applying CDR, right? So when you are applying multiple function on the same list, we call it as a composition, right? So when I again apply CDR on this, what is the head in this? Head is B here, in this case, yes or no? And what is the tail? C. So what will be written? The tail part of the list, right? So CDR of ABC will give you what? C. Right? Another operation that we have seen, of course, we discussed that apply to all. When you want to apply certain common operation on the list of all elements, probably you can do that, okay, with the help of mapcar operation, mapcar function. So mapcar function will take function and the list as arguments, right? So here you check for the list. If the list is null, it going to return the null value or empty, braces. Else, what happens? That function is going to be called. Function is going to be called by passing, a function as an argument, rather, right? And that function is nothing but car of list, right? So applying the operation on the head of this function could be some mathematical symbol also. List minus into divide. You want to apply plus on the elements of a list, rather, right? You want to perform product of all, right? So that could be the function here, mathematical function also. And then you apply function, and further you do the same, right? You're going to apply the car on the subsequent or the remainder part of the same. So when you get the first element from the remainder again, the next element that you get, which is going to be considered as the operand, second operand for the operation. The value evaluated out of it will be considered as the left operand, and the head part of the remainder will be taken as the second operand, right? So that's how it's going to be done. So that is mentioned here, you can see, right? So mapper of fun CDR list. So here, with the help of this recursive function, we are able to generate and separate the elements of the list which will undergo with the function that you have passed, right? Or you are willing to have it on, right? So you are here first getting the first atom of the list. For example, you have, let us say, plus 2, 3, 4. Okay, function is plus and list is, let us say, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so then what happens? This condition will never be false the first time, right? So you go to the else part where you say cons of cons is basically to combine. Cons will combine, right? Or concatenation operation, right? Append operation also you can say. Fine. So what happens here? Fun of car list, when you say fun means here plus car list is nothing but you are applying car on 2, 3, 4. What do you get here? 2 you get. Then what is that you have? Map car. Map car means you are again calling the same function, right? By passing what? Now the list is decremented, right? With the help of CDR, what is that you have done? You are decrementing it to the tail rather, right? CDR returns you what the tail part of it. Tail part means 3, 4. So from here, what is that are going to be sent? 3, 4 is going to be sent, right, to the list. So the newer list is going to be what? 3, 4 for you, right? The newer list is 3, 4 for you. And function is of course the same, plus. So now what happens here? See, cons which you have, cons is nothing but appending all this, appending all this. So plus 2 I have got till here. Then map car means you are calling the same by passing what? Function, that is plus again, right? On whom? On the list which is generated through the CDR of list. Initially the list is, as I said, 2, 3, 4, but CDR of list will give you what? 3, 4. That 3, 4 you are passing. So you have 3, 4 now, right? Got it? Plus you have 3, 4. Got it? Now when you pass this, what happens here? You can see you are going to check for the list. List is not nil. So you go for the else part where you are going to again generate the car of the existing list. Car of the existing list will give you what? 3 here, right? What it generates, it gives you 3 here. Right, so you got 3 here. Then again you are calling the same function map car by passing the function that is plus here and CDR of list. CDR of list existing list is going to give you 4, right? The remainder part of the existing list will be 4. So the next time you are sending is what? 4, right? So 4 is being sent. Now again, when that function is being called, this is null, you come here, then function of, that is nothing but plus you have, then what is that? You have, that is 4, right? So 4 is going to be placed here, right? 4 is going to be placed. So now you can see that you will get the elements like this, right? So in this, what happens? First plus 3, 4 is going to be evaluated, which is nothing but 7. Then plus 2, 7 is going to be done, which is nothing but 9. Okay. So that's how the result will be obtained from the sim. Okay. So we can have the apply to all kind of thing by building the code. Okay. With the help of recursion. You have plus 2, 3, 4, right? So the interpretation of this, first you are checking for the list whether it is null. If it is null, you return 0. Otherwise, you are going for cons of the plus here added in the sense plus you are saying and the list, right? That list you are going to send. So this list is going to generate the elements being separated from that with the help of the current CDR operation, right? So the interpretation of this particular code, I will, I'm writing here. The interpretation of this particular eval is, or adder essay, right? Is like this, right? Define adder list, fine. So this function is going to generate a code of this kind, fine. Define adder list. You have condition to check first with list is null. If null, then you return 0 because it's a addition of all numbers. So either you may return with 0 or some kind of value. If there's nothing, you return 0, right? So you see it is 0 if it is nothing, the list is empty. Otherwise, here you can see the plus is the operation which is going to be applied on. First you apply car list, means you'll get the head part of this. It means you get 2 initially, right? Yes or no? And then the next parameter that you have, right, which you are passing, is nothing but a function call itself, right? The adder. So adder of CDR list you said, right? Adder of CDR list means the decremented part of it. It means 3, 4 you are sending here. When you send 3, 4 here, again you come here because this is null. So you again, what happens here? You'll get the head part of the same. It's nothing but 3, 4, right? The head part of this 3, 4 is nothing but 3 here. Yes or no? The 3 will be sent, and the second parameter is nothing but again a function call with the decremented part of the same, that is 4, right? So when it is passed, like what happens, that 4 will be returned here. So what do you get now? This is going to be evaluated. So plus 3, 4 is an arithmetic function or operation, so which will rather return you with 7. Then again you have another operation before, that is 2 plus 7, which will return you 9. Okay, so it means the code you can build fine with certain statements. So this statement eval basically being used to generate the code, right? So if I say here eval concept place, then it generates me the code of this kind, right? And which will evaluate it for my respective results or respective inputs. Coming to list. Actually, scheme is a programming, functional programming, which is being basically used in academics to teach, because most of the syntax part of the scheme is very readable, and it is easy to teach and understand. So for teaching learning processes, scheme basically being used. But comes for commercial implementation, Lisp is one which is being widely used in commercial sector, right? It's a combination of many of the features of the popular dialect of Lisp around in the early 1980s. A large and complex language. It's the opposite of scheme, you can say. It includes different kind of features like records, arrays, complex numbers, character strings, powerful I/O capabilities. We have packages with access controls, iterative control statement. Yeah, right. The complex numbers, unlike your other imperative program where you don't have the complex numbers at data type, right? So here, the complex number is data where you can probably perform the operations on complex number with a very simple code, very similar to that of when you probably perform it on normal data types, right? Like such as taking the root of the complex number, or performing addition or multiplication, or subtraction of the same. ML is a meta language. We say it's one of the functional programming language. It's a static scope functional language syntax that is closer to Pascal than to Lisp. Use type declaration, but also does type inferencing. And static scope in the sense, the variables which we declare in a block, they will be bound to that, and where you can rather use it. Fine. Like for example, with the help of let function, where you can define certain variable with a certain operation, and that can be used in the subsequent part of the same. Fine. The parentheses that you give will be considered as the block rather, right? It uses type declaration, right? Like for example, string is a typeless where you have to mention so whatever the atom could be of the list based on the characteristic, the type will be automatically taken care, and the operations will be defined for the same, right? But this is a little different from the same. It's a strongly typed. It has no type coercion. So implicit type conversion is also not available as part of ML. It means it is the user's duty to take care of the type of the data which you are passing, right? Includes exception handling and a module facility for implementing abstract data type. So you can have abstract data types here. Exception handling probably you can implement here, as we discussed in previous classes. When certain exceptions when raised due to some logical or system, the code of your program will not be allowed to further execute. are sometimes what happens, your system gets halted. So in order to overcome such kind of situations, we will handle those exceptions. We've seen in ADA, C++, in Java how we handle exceptions. Similarly, in ML also we can rather handle the exceptions here. Include list and list operations. As I told, all functional programming language data types, if you see, the basic types are only two, right? Atoms and lists, right? Function declaration form. You can see how we declare a function in ML. You use fun keyword, fun, followed by the name and followed by the parameter list here, right? Equal to the body. Body is nothing but the code of that particular function, right? For example, you want to find the cube of a number, right? It looks very similar to that of your macro code, right? Of C or C++, right? Fun followed by cube space followed by the arguments. Let us say x. Here, as I said, it is strongly typed, so you need to mention the type of the variable. Whereas in scheme, you may have seen that you are not mentioning the type of the variables, right? The type will be automatically taken care by the programming language itself based on the values that you pass at the compile time. Okay, and operations which are required to be rather defined on the same also be decided at the compile time. Okay. So, but whereas here, since it is strongly typed and there is no type conversion, it means you don't have implicit type conversion as well. So you have to explicitly mention the type of the data. Fine. So fun, very similar to that of your C or C++ kind, right? In C++, we have at least type coercion. Implicit type conversion is there. While performing certain operation, if you have mixed type, then it converts that into a uniform one, right? Using narrowing process or widening process. There are two processes that we have discussed before, rather, right? Which will be rather adopted for type conversion. So either of that mechanism will be adopted in order to do that. So C basically implements that, but the languages like Java can support implicit type conversion, right? So you have to explicitly mention, or else if you have mixed type, then the user has to take care of converting the same. Fine. Okay, so here you can see the type could be attached to the return value, as in one cube of x. We can write like this as well: x colon integer equal to x into x into x. With no type specified, it could be a default, and the default is integer for numeric values. User-defined overloaded functions are not allowed here. So if you wanted a cube function for real parameter, it would need to have a different name. There are no type coercion in ML. Like in C++, we have overloading concept. So with the help of same name, different data type specifying it, you can have the renaming of the same. It's possible, but since overloading is not allowed here in this particular language, so if I want to perform the cube of a number on another data type, I need to give some other name to that particular function name, right? I can't have the same cube. You can have a cube float or cube 2, 3, something like that, which has to be rather different from the name that you have given it for type that you have defined before, right? ML, provides you the selection control statements as well with the help of if-else here. So if you look at the syntax of the same if expression followed by then expression, and you have else and else expression, right? Where the first expression must evaluate a Boolean value. The expression that you have followed by if is generally could be conditional, or it could be some constraint based kind, where the result which you obtain from it is going to be a Boolean kind, either it is a true or false. So based on that, which respective block has to be rather executed, will be decided. If that it is going to be true, then expression is going to be executed. Otherwise, else expression is going to be executed. Right? We have pattern matching process as well, right? Can be used to allow function to operate on different parameter forms. Okay. Factor of a number here given in ML, how we write the code for this. Funds followed by fact. If it is 0, it has to return 1. So this R symbol, which is being used, to use to define the functions with the help of pattern matching kind. So this R will separate the code based on the constraints or the parameter values that you pass it, right? Here you can see the function. For the function you are passing what 0. So if you pass 0, what it returns? It returns 1. Here this R symbol, vertical bar, which is being used when you are writing the function using pattern matching approach, right? And what it means that it checks for the parameters, right? If the parameter is 0, it takes this. If the parameter is not 0, then it will check for this, where it could be n, which is nothing but an integer, right? So if it is not 0, then this has to be executed, right? So instead of if-else, we can probably implement the same factorial of a number in ML using if-else kind of approach, like how we have done it in other languages, like of course imperative as well. But in addition to that, you have this approach as well available, right? Pattern matching approach. So in which what happens, you just specify the parameters. So parameter is going to be matched based on the value that is being passed during the invocation of the particular function. Okay. So if it is 0, it returns 1. Otherwise, this particular code is going to be executed. What is that? We have n into fact of n minus 1. Right? It's a recursive call, right? ML specifies list. The literals are specified in brackets of the list, and the list here presented with the help of square bracket. If it is null, it is going to be empty here. Okay. And we have cons operation basically to append, right? The elements or concatenate the elements, which generates the concatenated list. Fine. And you can use the symbol also. Double colon is also can be used for cons operation here. 4 double colon 357. If I say what happens, this 4 is going to be appended to this list 357, and it is going to generate a list of 4357. And the basic operations that you perform are car CDR. The car, is here represented in ML with the help of head kind of thing, and CDR is going to be represented with the help of tail kind of thing, right? So, but the working style is same, right? Which where the car is going to give you the head part, the list, and the car CDR is going to give you the tail, other divided part of it, right? By removing the head part. Here, let us look at some functions being defined. You have to find the length of a list, right? And here you are passing a list, right? When you pass the list for the length function, length of, let us say you are passing the list of 4357. Okay, so how it is going to be evaluated here? It checks here. This function is defined with the help of pattern matching approach. Fine. So this parameter that you pass for length, right, is going to be compared here with the first matching. The first matching is, if you can see, it is null. So, but this is not null. So it goes to the second, definition. Where the second definition, in the second definition, you can see the list has to be represented in the form of cons of HT, right? H is nothing but head part of the list. Head part of the list is 4, right? Head part of the list is 4, and this is cons operation, right? You see, this 4357, we can represent it as 4 double colon 357 also, no? This and this both the same. While you are calling, probably you will be sending the entire list, but then that list is going to be here separated with head and tail part. Okay, before the list is being sent inside the code. This is the code. So 4 is the head part, and head part which is being generated out of it is nothing but the 4 here, and then cons of tail part. What is the tail part here? 357, right? 357. So this 4 cons of 357 will be sent inside the code. So inside the code, when you go where you have 1 place, it means 1 place length of t. What is the t here? 357. Means length of 357 will be sent. So you will get 357 as the parameter. Then which again checks for the first matching. First matching is not successful. Then it goes for the second definition, where again the second definition, this list has to be represented in the form of h cons tail. H cons tail means, so what is the head part of the 357 will be 3 here. counts of and the tail part of it is nothing but 5 7, right? So now after representing this list in the form of head and tail, that HT value will be sent inside the code. Inside the code, when you go, you have one place again. It means already there was one place, then now again one place. Length of t is nothing but tail is nothing but 5 7 here. So 5 7 is sent here. So again, when 5 7 is sent, what happens? The function call is again made with the help of 5 7 list. The first definition is not met. Second definition it goes again. Where again the representation of this list is done with head counts of. So 5 7 is sent here. So again, when 5 7 is sent, what happens? The function call is again made with the help of 5 7 list. The first definition is not met. Second definition it goes again. Where again the representation of this list is done with head counts of tail, right? So again, what happens now? After you represent, you will be sent inside the code where what happens? You had already one place. Now it is again one place, right? One place. Length of t. So length of what is t here? T is 7 here. Now when 7 is sent here, what happens again when it is represented in the form of head and tail? What happens? 7 cons empty list. 7 cons tail is empty list, right? So this is how it will be sent. Now what happens again when you send inside the code? That will be like one plus length of tail. What is tail here? Empty list. When you send this empty list again, when matching happens, first definition will get matched, so it returns 0. So it will be plus 0. So what is the value that you get? Is nothing but 4, right? So that's how you can see a lot of you can see operations are being carried out. How much if I trace this function, how many operations did it happen? If you see that has to happen through iterative fashion. How many operations could have happened in iterative fashion? That is all being taken care in the recursion. And one plus point in functional programming language is recursion is not a recursion, rather it is a tail recursion. Though this is a recursion itself, but then this will be converted into tail recursion with the help of the app functions that you have, right? Applications that you have as part of the compiler of the C, right? Where it makes the recursive function more efficient, right? That way, if you see, the code is very simple in functional programming, only 2 lines of code, right? If you go to the same, if I have to implement it with the help of C language to find the length of a string, I need a for loop, right? Isn't it? Or if you are going for recursion also, it's a kind of normal recursion where you have to have those many activation required for each recursion call, right? So it is expensive kind, right? So looking at the code is also very simpler, more readable. At the same time, evaluation is very simpler, right? And space-wise and other kind of thing, it is more easier, right? There's a reason why this kind of languages are mostly used in artificial intelligence and natural language processing, and most of the real-time applications that we use this. This is clear to all of you. It specifies, to allow you to declare certain variables which can be defined with certain operation as well, right? For example, here you can see a val statement binds a name to a value similar to define a scheme. Like we had seen in scheme with the help of define, you can define certain constant identifiers which can be fixed and can be rather used throughout the program. For example, in C also you have with the help of macro hash define pi 3.14 kind of thing, right? So you generally define this at the beginning, made as global, and throughout the program that pi will be act as a constant identifier to generate the 3.14 value, right? So wherever you write pi, it will be replaced with 1.4. Similarly, with the help of val, you can do that here in ML, right? If I want certain variable to be binded with certain operation or certain value, you can do that, right?